Do you have any, Drew?
Y'all know anything about IT band syndrome?
From the running
That's what I
perspective.
thought from running, yeah.
Yeah.
It sucks because Dylan actually dealt with that as a cyclist, so.
Dylan has?
Yeah, but he also like doesn't advocate stretching. So
Yeah.
okay. Ready? We'll go on to this next one here. Okay, so this first question we got this week is from Tyler. Tyler says, I'll be going into college in the fall and would like to continue training at a high level. Do you have any tips for balancing training with school and fueling on a college budget? Thanks for any information, Tyler. This is actually this is a timely question.
This is an awesome question.
Yeah.
Wait, how so? Why is it timely?
We'll get there when we get there.
So he wants to know, the part that I remembered was how to fuel on a budget because he's in college. So like,
yeah, so balancing training with school as well as fueling on a budget. You know, so he wants to train at a high level, but he's also going to be time managed or have to work on time management because of schooling. And then he's also going to be limited budget wise. So he wants to know what's the best way to fuel his training for effective training.
Dude, if I could go back to my college self, I think about this often. If I could go back to my college self and tell myself some advice, I would tell myself to not waste so much time in college because I had such less responsibility in college than I do now, but I have more motivation now than I ever have to train. Like, and at the same time, I've realized how important volume is for training.
Okay, so you're not telling him that college is a waste of time. You're just saying don't waste your free time while you're in college.
Yes.
Okay.
That's exactly.
I was just making sure. That's why I was.
Did it come off a different way?
It did at first.
Okay. No. Go to college. I'm not saying don't go to college if that's what it sounded like. No. I spent so much time like goofing off with friends and like just wasting time in college basically. And yeah, like hang out with friends. I'm not saying don't do that, but I goofed off a lot in college and I should have, if I had spent that time training, oh man, I could have, like when I didn't have kids and a job and all like a list of 100 things to do every day, like, oh man, I could have utilized that time so much better. But I don't know if that helps him.
That's hard to say because you only get to do college once. And don't miss out on fun things for the sake of training because you do have the rest of your life to ride your bike.
Yeah, do those things after it gets dark, but like during the day, train. That's what I would say. I love hanging out with my friends, but like, I mean, I wasted a lot of time in college. I think I could have trained a lot.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, I even think about that a lot of times with my life now. Like I try and prioritize or structure my days to where during the daytime, like I do the activities that I need daylight for during the day. And then I save things that I can do in the evening when I don't need daylight, like
exactly
computer work.
Yeah.
You know, after the kids go to bed and things like that. So I think that's valid. I think your point of like, you know, train when you can in the daytime and even going as far as like structuring your classes, you know, like if you've got the chance to take a, 4 p.m. class and it goes from 4 to 6 or whatever, that gives you some extra time in the daytime instead of, a noon class.
Heck yeah. Don't get a girlfriend. I said hanging out with my buddies, but actually what I meant was I had a girlfriend in college and I spent way too much time with that girlfriend who isn't my wife now. I did date my wife in college, but for most of college I had another girlfriend and that was such a waste of time. All the time I spent with her could have been training.
You're going to look back at your college years and no matter what you do, you're going to end up saying, I could have done this. I should have done this, regardless of what decision you make. So this is just a good life principle in general.
Yeah.
Instead of stressing about what the right decision is, if you have these different paths ahead of you, choose one and you make the decision right.
That's a good advice. Yeah. Because college is a point in life where you do have to make a lot of like big decisions, like what am I going to major in? Because then ultimately you kind of say, that's what I want to spend the rest of my life doing. And like, I think everybody changes their major in college. I think that's okay. Like, don't think that just because you picked this major and I don't know. But yeah, I agree with what Caitlin's saying. Like, think about what now we're just giving this kid life advice, but think about what you would enjoy doing in life regardless of money. And I think usually there's a way that you can make money doing that. Like, what I'm saying is don't just do something for the money, because then you're going to end up unhappy, and being unhappy but making money is, to me, not worth it. I would rather make less money and be a little more happy than make more money and be less happy. I had a job once and I hated it so much, and they offered me a 25% increase in pay in my salary, and I disliked the job so much that I was like, no, I'm out of here. And I took a 25% pay cut to get a different job, and I was so much happier. Of course that changes like your budget and stuff, but yeah.
Well, that's a great segue, because that's the second part of his question, right?
True.
So the reason I said that this is timely is I am experimenting with some different fueling options right now. And the latest thing that I've been trying for the last couple weeks is just straight sugar. So, table sugar, which is sucrose. So 50% glucose to fructose ratio. And I've been doing like 90 to 100 grams of carbs an hour, and it's working pretty good. And it's super cheap.
Yeah.
Costco maple syrup too.
Yeah, Costco maple syrup. You can't beat that.
Yeah. So what I was going to say is, like, maybe lean on your food court. I mean, if you got a food court that offers maple syrup, peanut butter, sugar packs, I mean, I'm not telling you should steal. You're already paying for it, right?
No, you're not stealing, dude.
Those things are there.
Stealing.
You have access to those.
They're stealing from you, because they overcharge those meal plans. I had to take out like student loans just to pay for the freaking meal plan that we had to get. It was it's crazy how much they charge you for those.
Again,
things.
though, like you pay to get access to those things, so those are available resources.
Yeah.
So each pack of sugar will have roughly 5 grams. So it's a lot of sugar packets. But I mean, something like as basic as that is basic sugar. So you can get 5 pounds of sugar from the grocery store for like $15. And that goes a long ways. So that's like 20, let's see. Yeah, I mean, that's like probably 50 servings worth. So, I mean, that's a lot.
I see this kid going into this food court with a bike bottle, just like pumping the maple syrup and filling it.
Totally fine. So another option along those lines, if you're going to use a bottle to just grab some drink, iced tea is a great option. You have to be careful.
Kid that I went to college with, probably the best crit racer on our college team, raced with sweet tea in his bottles.
Yeah. So you got to be careful with the caffeine, because it depends on how much you're consuming and how much caffeine content is in the caffeine, or is in the tea. But especially if you can get non-caffeinated sweet tea, great option.
Well, let's assume he doesn't have a meal plan. What are some what's good advice?
Again, I mean, thinking cheap here, if you're going to do maple syrup, I'd probably do something that's like pure maple syrup. So, the kind that comes in the fancy jar, in a glass bottle or whatever. Only because the other kinds are going to probably be higher in fructose content than you're looking for. So they may be a little bit harder to digest. But again, it depends on what you're using it for. If you're using it for endurance rides and you're not trying to maximize your intake and just, getting by on endurance rides, that's probably fine. Because that is going to be way cheaper than pure maple syrup. But I think just straight sugar, from what I've tried to crunch some different numbers, is probably the cheapest option, and it gets you really, really close to the optimized ratio.
I think it's helpful to have like a list of staple foods. So I have a list of staple foods on my phone, and most of these I think are pretty affordable.
So now we're talking off the bike, right? So now we're talking just
straight grocery
daily
store
nutrition.
shopping.
Great.
I would tell this kid to like come up with a list of staple foods that are cheap, healthy, and that he enjoys, and just to like run off some things from mine: almonds, bananas, black beans, brown rice, coffee, corn, eggs, oats, olive oil, peanut butter, potatoes, salmon. That's not that cheap, but it's good. Spinach, sweet potatoes, tomatoes, tuna, yogurt. That's my list. And a couple other things in there. But most of that stuff's pretty cheap. Like rice should probably be the number one, like top of your list of food every time you go. Just buy a giant thing of rice. That's so cheap, and you can Chase Work told me he ate like 50 pounds or something of uncooked rice in a year, which like
uncooked rice,
uncooked. So cooked like 50 pounds before he cooked it, because he buys the 25 pound.
Okay.
He buys the 25-pound bag at a time. And I think he said he went through multiples of those bags. So it was like 50 plus pounds.
Make that work for breakfast, lunch, or dinner.
Yeah. He said he was eating it for all 3 meals of the day. He'd make a giant pot of it, and it would be there for the next day or two. And he would,
Yeah. So another pro tip on that is I would get a small rice. Well, I mean, I'd probably get a small rice cooker, because then you can just make what you need each day in that. And then that way you can travel with that. So that's why it's the pro tip is like, then you can bring that with you on your collegiate road racing trips or whatever you're doing. Because it's a cheap, simple, easy option. And it's a passive cooking. I mean, you can just let that thing cook while you're doing other, homework
so you
or whatever.
can cook rice in a pot, but like the rice cooker is like what, $20,
rice cooker
and
is
it's
way
so worth it. Like cooks it better. Yeah, you just put the water and the rice in there. You don't have to stir it. You can travel with it. You don't even need a stovetop. You just plug it into the wall anywhere you go. So
exactly. Yeah.
Also, if you're doing white rice, pro tip is really important, and it cooks way better if you rinse your rice. Because we used to
I've done that. It just gets less like mushy, right?
Yeah. It cooks way better.
Yeah, I agree.
Can't you? I mean, it's probably more expensive, but you can buy pre-washed, pre-rinsed or whatever.
Dude, you lazy?
Rice,
We're talking to a college kid. He
can
rinse his own rice.
Yeah.
They'll pay extra for that.
Yeah.
We're not in college, and I still buy like bulk. We have a grocery store called Sprouts, and there's just aisles of like the bulk stuff, which is so nice.
Right.
Nice.
I feel like we didn't really talk about the training part. He said, like, how does he balance training? And I thought what you said about the scheduling makes a ton of sense. Like, schedule your classes either early in the morning or late at night, so that you have hours at a time in the middle of the day to go ride or whatever. And then also there's usually a gym on campus, and I had never been to the gym, I don't think, until I got to college. And then I went to college, and I remember freshman year I was paired up with one of the female BMXers, because like half of their training's in the gym, and the strength coach was like, oh, this will be a good pair. You'll just come in with Crystal when she comes in, and you guys will do the same workout. So I was working out with a female BMXer like 3 days a week in our gym, and I was getting roasted. And this girl was strong, and the strength coach was strong, and she was definitely way stronger than I was. So it was like a good I just had a good memory too. Like, but yeah, I got introduced to the gym. So I would say take advantage of all of the resources you have. Like the gym is one of them. The cafeteria is another one. But yeah, there's probably multiple other resources that you can maybe even utilize while you're there. Physical therapists, they usually have like PTs on staff that help with with all the athletics. But if you got an injury,
it depends on if your school recognizes cycling as a official sport. But I mean, even a lot of colleges will offer group workout classes too. So like if you're new to the gym and you're not really sure what you're doing, but you don't have access to a personal trainer, they might have group sessions, or you could sign up for classes too. Sometimes they'll have like a powerlifting class that you can take. So those are good options too. I mean, I like trying to leverage anything you can. I know it sounds weird, because like taking a powerlifting class, like you're technically spending a lot of money to like take a powerlifting class, but it's like going to count towards your degree as like one of your credits. And it's a way that you can like get some workout in while you're also getting fitness in. I mean, getting, credit for your classes while you're getting fitness in. So that's a good option. And going back to the scheduling too, the reason I like configuring your schedule to where your classes kind of bookend your day is then it gives you time during the day to ride when you're not going to be hanging out with your friends, right? So it doesn't give you that excuse of like, if all your classes are, from in the morning until 3 p.m. and it's like you can either go ride your bike at 3 p.m. or you can go like hang out with the boys in the dorms at 3 p.m. because everyone else is done with their classes for the day, then you kind of like have that tough choice to make. But if you're already out riding at noon because you don't have any classes at noon and everyone else is in classes, it kind of takes away from that decision making of like having to make the hard choice of socializing versus getting on the bike? And obviously you want to make time for schoolwork and that too in the evenings.
Prioritize sleep. I mean, like college, it goes without saying that most college kids probably don't prioritize sleep. So you'd be doing yourself a disservice to your training if you didn't prioritize sleep. And it would be very easy to just forget about sleep and hang out with the buds. And like I had a funny reputation freshman year because all the other freshman cyclists would hang out and stuff, and at 9:00 I would leave no matter what and go to my dorm and like go to sleep. And they all like CJ tells me all the time, or has told me that she vividly remembers like I wouldn't hang out with people past a certain hour. I would go to my dorm and go to sleep.
Nice. Yeah, sleep or my bad sleep habits started in college, and they can definitely linger for a long time. It's only been like recently that they got resolved. So yeah, definitely be mindful of that, I guess. Yeah, I mean, sleep is still important. It's important for physical health as well as like your mental health too.
Yeah, the nutrition piece off the bike and the sleeping piece off the bike is only going to help you perform better in school.
Yeah.
And then those patterns and behaviors that you cultivate then are only going to carry on as you get older.
You can pick up a lot of bad habits in college, like not just the sleep. I mean, a lot of people, like the freshman 15, like that's a real thing.
Oh yeah.
Like drinking, that's a real thing. Like partying, there's like a lot of things that typical college experience that aren't great for training. So I'm not saying don't do those ever, but don't make it a habit, I would say, if you're serious about cycling.
Right. So the last thing that I would mention too, he doesn't say whether he's going to a school that has a cycling team or if he's going to be competing at like, the collegiate cycling level. But if not, let's say you're going to school and there's not a cycling team, finding someone else that you can do some training with, even if they're not a cyclist, maybe you find someone that you can do your strength training routines with or something. Yeah. It just helps to have someone to help hold you accountable and push each other too.
Yeah. Yeah, the cross country team would let me run with them sometimes, which I thought was super cool. I wasn't on the cross country team. I was on the cycling team, but I liked to run for cyclocross. And so I remember doing a couple of the runs with the cross country team, and I thought that was super cool. And I was able to become friends with some of those kids just from that too. So something like that where you can maybe just tag along. I don't know if they allow that, but they allowed it at my school. So.
Or if you're going to college out of town, like connect with the local bike shop there. Maybe there's a group ride that happens that you can hop in. But he mentioned budgeting and nutrition, but I think as a cyclist, budgeting and maintaining your bike is could be somewhat of a challenge. So
YouTube,
for whatever reason, like I'm not pushing you to get a job while you're in college, but if you connect with the local bike shop and you can pick up some hours and then you get all the deals, like that's going to go really far.
That's a good, that's good
for sure.
I was saying that. YouTube because like I'm convinced that I could do, like if there's a will, there's a way. So if I want to do something on my own, I'll watch a YouTube video and figure out how to do it on my own. And
so everything YouTube and work at a shop so you can get access to the parts that you need.
And the tools. Right. A lot of times it's like, oh darn, I got to order this specific tool for this specific bottom bracket, and I don't want to fork out the dollars, but it's probably still cheaper to buy the tool than to take it to the shop.
Yeah, and that's also a great way to, again, if you're not going to a school that has a cycling program and you're not going to be on the team, going through your local bike shop is going to be a great way to connect with other cyclists in the area, even if they're not collegiate athletes. They might be master's levels cyclists that have a group ride that you can go on or whatever. Great way to connect.
Don't quote me on this, but if your college doesn't have a cycling team, I think it's a super easy process to like create a club team via USAC. And I think I know a kid who went to college who did that, created like a club team, super easy. I don't know if it's just fill out a form or what, but I don't even know if there's any money involved with it. And then he showed up to cyclocross Nats with a black jersey and some duct tape, and duct taped the letter of his school onto the front of a black jersey and raced and like won the club cyclocross race. So like, I thought that was pretty cool. Like you could do that.
Yeah.
Start your own team. Like you could be the pioneer of the local college cycling team. I think the kid,
Yeah, I think
U of L, right here in the University of Louisville, where right down the street from where I live. I'm a kid that I grew up racing with started the University of Louisville cycling team while he was in school there.
Yeah, I think you have to get someone to technically a staff to sponsor the team or whatever, and they just have to sign papers or whatever for you. But yeah, it's a pretty easy process from what I remember.
Yeah. But this kid like started the team, got like legit jerseys made, like kits made. They did a like an event to raise money for the team, like, and that was all. Like he started the whole thing. I was like, dang, that's impressive.
Yeah, and I don't know. I think collegiate road racing, especially, is a really fun way to get into at least road racing. You know, I mean,
agreed.
It's just like the atmosphere is great. The competitiveness is really good. There's, you know, beginner through advanced categories. It's a great way to like get upgrade points. You can go to nationals. You know, pretty much anyone can qualify for nationals. So yeah, it's a pretty cool opportunity to just get into racing. So I don't know. Again, we don't know what level he's competing at and what school he's going to be going to. But if you don't have a cycling program at your school, definitely, like Drew's talking about here, I would encourage you to at least look into establishing one so you can get access to the collegiate road racing scene, or I mean, collegiate racing scene in general, whatever discipline that is.
Another little thing I was thinking about with the whole budget and the food thing. Your body is a temple, dude. So like, I know ramen is cheap, but like, don't just because it's cheap. Trust me, like I'm preaching to myself right now. Like for the longest time, I would just buy whatever the cheapest garbage was and I would eat it. I think that there's a healthy balance between having a budget, but also having it be quality food. So don't fall into the trap of like, I'm just going to buy whatever the cheapest thing is because it's cheap. Really, really consider the quality of the food that you're buying. Yeah. Even on a budget.
Yeah.
I think it's possible. It's doable.
Yeah. And that doesn't have to be organic versus non-organic or whatever. We're, you know, I mean, just the basics too of looking at, is it Whole Foods? Is it, what's the ingredients list and things like that?
Yeah. Read Matt Fitzgerald, Racing Weight. Great book. Read that book. It'll help you.
Cool. Should we move on? Drew, do you have a question pulled up?
Yeah. How strict is your time cutoff?
Yeah. So I'm going to have to hop off here. So I'll have to let you guys take it away for this next question.
It's about, do you have to hop off like right this second?
You can go ahead and read it.
Well, I'll say the topic, and if you have any advice, and then I'll read the full question.
Okay.
Like, do you know anything about IT band syndrome? You got any advice regarding that before you jump off?
My first advice would be don't wait. Like IT band syndrome can get out of hand really quick, so don't delay the inevitable. There's lots of different techniques you can use to try and address it. Different foam rolling techniques, but you have to be careful with how you're foam rolling it and frequency of foam rolling it. Different release exercises, but yeah, it can be really pesky and it can manifest really quick if you let things get out of hand.
Cool.
And that goes for a lot of injuries, but for whatever reason, the IT band just seems to be one that's like really tricky to address.
Yeah. It's like the consistency of a tire. Like you can't foam roll it. People will say foam roll, but you need to foam roll the muscles at which, like, the insertion point.
Yeah.
And
well, me and Caitlin are going to go more in depth. So
all right, yeah, you guys can take it away from here. But
I wanted to get Adam's take.
Cool,
all
guys.
Right, cool. See you, man.
All right. Yep.
See you. Yeah, something I've experienced as a runner in my collegiate days, but not as a cyclist. But I do know it's common for cyclists to get it as well. But yeah, it's most typically like an overuse thing, but it can stem also from muscular imbalances. So if you do unilateral stuff in the gym and you notice that one side is weaker than the other significantly, like if you're trying to do single leg deadlifts or single leg blanking on the name, but where your rear leg is elevated and you're essentially doing a single leg squat.
Bulgarian split squat.
Yes.
I love those.
But if one is significantly more challenging for you, then that side could be at risk.
Here, I'll read now that we're not crunched on time, I'll read his question. It says, I think he has 2 questions. Does anyone have experience with IT band syndrome? I developed it when increasing volume too fast at the start of the season and have had to stop training until I can ride my bike pain-free. I have 2 100K road races in about a month, and these are also my 2 main races of the season. I probably can start, but cannot train much before the races. I now focus on rehab, getting the inflammation under control, strengthening the relevant muscles, and foam rolling them. Can you give any advice and rehab tips? How can I train, maintain fitness in the meantime? After rehab, I probably have to restart at base season, slowly ramping up volume. Thanks again for all advice in the podcast. Carl from Sweden.
Well,
so yeah, mostly just IT band syndrome. I'm curious. I guess he said he developed it when increasing volume too fast at the start of the season, and so I'm assuming he did it via the bike, which is rare. Like, you don't hear a ton of people having this problem relative to how often you hear it from runners. Like, I feel like every runner deals with IT band syndrome, and it's because of this exact thing where they try to increase their running volume too quickly, and the IT band flares up. But I do know that it can also happen in cycling, and he kind of nailed it on the head with increasing for those who don't have IT band syndrome listening to this. What I'm saying is, like, you have to be careful when you increase the volume quickly, because this is something that could flare up in that process.
This is why strength training is so important, because it allows your body to be durable enough to handle the increase in mileage, the increase in volume as a runner, as a cyclist. It's a shame Dylan's not on this podcast now, because I know he has. Do you know more about his experience with it?
I think he would say, okay, so IT band is usually most commonly like the red flag of when your IT band is flared up is you'll have knee pain, right? Like, because it'll be pulling on your knee. And I know that I think he would say shorter cranks. I think that would be one of the things that he would mention and that's something that I did last year as well. I went to shorter cranks thinking, if I'm going to increase my volume or just ride at a high volume of training, like I have been, one of the things that you can, like, to minimize the risk of having knee pain, not necessarily from IT band issues, but just knee pain in general, is shorter cranks, because then you're putting your pedal stroke then is putting your legs and your muscles through less range of motion. And so if you're talking about like thousands and thousands of pedal strokes with a little less range of motion, then that seems like it would be a little bit easier on your joints and something like your IT band. And then another thing that I would definitely consider, and this is kind of where I was going with, like, you don't hear about this that often on the bike, is a bike fit. I would think that if this were an athlete that I was coaching and they said that, IT band thing was flaring up, I would question if it was a bike fit or a position issue. That would be the very first thing, because if that's the case, that's an easy fix. Go get a bike fit. They lower your seat. Your knee has less, like, you're not putting as much stress on your knee and all of the, just everything, including your IT band, on your hips, on your back, on all that. And then problem fixed. Like, you have to get used to the new position, I guess. But, like, that is a much quicker, easier fix than strengthening it over like weeks and months and having to go to the gym, and which that might be something you have to consider as well. But I would try to knock out the, like, quick and easy resolution first if it is a bike fit problem.
Yeah. And I'll say, I'm not an orthopedic doctor, I'm not a physical therapist, but I am of the firm belief that you can fix yourself and do it pretty quickly. And I don't know how far deep you are into this injury and if it's really angry and truly you do need rest, but I've had a lot of injuries where I've been told you need X amount of weeks to do nothing on it. But then instead really, really took the manual therapy seriously. And that's like getting into the gluten and like all of the musculature attached to it with a, whether or not it's like a lacrosse ball or baseball even, and it's not going to feel pleasant. It's not going to feel good. And sometimes you need to get deeper and you go see somebody for dry needling. And that's all it takes, is to kind of like calm everything around it down, release the issue, and then you're good to go. But be super diligent about doing body work, especially if you're increasing your volume. It's not static stretching. It's not holding postures for 60 seconds plus. It's active, like myofascial release. So foam rolling. And again, no, you can't foam roll the IT band. That's not going to do much. It's the musculature around it.
Yeah, and it's a lot to do with your hip. Like when I had a little bit of inflammation from an IT thing when I was doing all that running a few years ago, and I got to the point where I couldn't run. So I had to not run for the 2 weeks before my event, which ended up working out. I didn't have any IT band. I think to what Adam was kind of hinting at is like, I had tried to push through, it got worse. And then it got to the point where I couldn't run at all, but I could still ride without pain. And so I just shifted gears and focused on the bike for the last few weeks before the event. And then I did the run and had zero issues. And so I think with mine, I think it was just like, I don't know what the difference between maybe IT band syndrome is a little bit more severe than just like an inflamed IT band, but mine just like from 2 weeks of just letting it rest and heal, it was pretty much good to go after that. But one of the things that you had said that made me think of this was there's a book called Rebound. I don't know what the author is. It's somewhere back here. Doesn't matter. It's called Rebound, and it's like the mental side of rehab and coming back from injury. Matt Fitzgerald gave his thumbs up for it. I think he wrote like a solid review or the introduction for it or something. He's not one of the authors, but he recommended it in one of his books or something. And it is really good. But one of the things that I remember from that book, probably the biggest thing from that book I remember reading was there has to be like a serious mindset shift when you're injured to the point where you can no longer do the sport that you're training for. When you're training for that sport, your mindset is, my job is to train for this sport and get better and accomplish my goals. But when you get injured, you need to now take a different approach. Now your job is to recover from this injury. You're no longer your job is no longer to train for the goals. I know that sounds bad, and I hate that for people who are dealing with injury, but your job is no longer to train for those events and those goals. And your job is now to recover from this injury first and foremost. And so I think having that mindset shift will drastically change the entire rehab experience. If all you're thinking is, I got to get back to I'm losing fitness and I'm going to tank the goal event that I have, then, you're not accepting the reality of the situation, which is, I think, maybe the first step.
Getting injured, of course, is not fun, but if you have that mentality shift, you can find a lot of parallels between training and recovering from an injury. And it can actually be super satisfying and super rewarding, because once you're finally able to get back to riding, like you start to, it depends on how long you've been down and out, but once you get back to riding, you see progress a lot quicker than you had been when you were healthy. And that's fun to see.
And you appreciate it more. Like the whole comeback thing is a real thing, because people get injured and they realize how much they love the sport that they do now that it's been taken away from them. So then when they can get back to doing it, they come back to it with such a zeal that they didn't have before, that a lot of times they come back stronger because of that renewed motivation. I made a video. I broke my wrist a couple years ago, and that's probably the biggest injury that I've had, because mainly it is like the worst injury that I've had. Luckily, like I haven't had any other serious injuries, but it was also poor timing, because it was like just a weeks before I was going into a block of A races, and I literally broke my wrist like the day before my first A race, and then I had like 3 weeks of A races lined up, and so it was just terrible timing. And so it was a bummer. And but through that process, I read that book Rebound, and if you don't want to read the whole book, the point that I'm making is I made a video on YouTube. It was probably one of the worst performing videos that I've had on my YouTube channel, because people are like, I don't want to watch a video on I think it's called the mental side of injury, or the mental side of coming back from injury, something like that. And people don't want to watch a video on that until they're injured. And that's why I made it, because I was like, I know people are going to find this useful when they're injured. And so, yeah, if you want to go watch that, you can. There's probably some tidbits in there that would be helpful as well. But in that video, I basically sum up that book Rebound throughout the video.
And this is a reason why I push my athletes to diversify and find other modalities of training. Yeah. Because if you're so focused on cycling and your whole identity is as a cyclist, if you lose that piece of you, you feel it's really easy to spiral and be in a negative spot.
I talked about that in the video. The multifaceted, they call it a multifaceted identity. That was one of the big things that I remember reading about when I was injured. And I know like people don't exactly like it when I talk about my faith, but I think that having something as solid as religion or faith, no matter like what injury you have, or in general, just how bad life gets, like when you have other things to lean on, like faith or family, or, the list can be a long list, but if all you have is cycling, and then cycling gets taken away, like Caitlin's saying, like you've got a single faceted identity, that's a dangerous spot to be in, because then that thing gets taken away, and now you're basically having an identity crisis about who am I, what's my purpose, what's the meaning in life. And so if you've got these other things like that you're passionate about and are helping identify who you are, then if one of those things goes away, like cycling, well, like, okay, yeah, I'm not just a cyclist, I'm also a Christian, and I'm a father, and I'm a family guy, and I'm a DIYer, like, whatever those things are. So I think that's a good point too.
Yeah. From the identity perspective, but then also from the physiological perspective, if you're used to being on your bike, 10 hours a week, like you're used to the endorphins, and just it makes you a happier human being. And if you don't have that anymore, but I'm not a runner, I don't do that, well, you're missing out, because you could still get that stimulus that's going to make you feel better throughout the day anyway. So
there's got to be something else you could do besides ride your bike that would be fun, even if you hate running.
Just getting outside.
Do something.
So important.
Yeah, I agree. Do you think we hit it all?
I think so.
Yeah, he does say, how can I maintain fitness in the meantime? Yeah, I think we kind of touched on it actually just now, but finding other modes of training that maybe don't hit the injured part. Now we're just talking about injury in general, but if you're like, when my wrist was broken, I couldn't ride because I couldn't ride the handlebars, but I could tolerate, and I made sure it was okay with my doctor. They said as long as I don't trip and fall, I could run. So I was running a ton when I had my broken wrist, and at that point, it wasn't necessarily to like maintain fitness, because like I said, all my goal races I had already missed. I was just kind of what Caitlin was saying, was like to keep my sanity and to get outside. I was going out and running, and there were a lot of days when I remember a day in particular where I watched movies all day, and I was such a bum, and I was basically like depressed, because it was probably on the date of one of those races, and all my teammates were out racing, and I'm at home with this cast on my arm, and I remember just sitting around eating junk food all day and watching movies. And then at the end of the day, I was like, man, I'm such a bum. So I went for a run. I went and did a track workout, and I felt like a million times better after I went. And it was almost like sometimes you just got to like do something to snap you out of it. And that's what that did for me. I like went and did just a super hard workout on a track, running, and for like just for mental sanity, that helped a ton.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Cool.
Are we gonna hit another one or wrap it up 40?
Nah, I think we should wrap it up. I don't have any other ones pulled up, and it's probably not as good without Adam, so we should just wrap
he
it
keeps us on track.
Yeah.
All right. Sounds good. We'll
Cool.
catch you next time.
All right. See you next time.
See ya.